This is Sir Terry Waite. December the 2nd, 1991 is the People magazine it was in. He's a Brit. He was held for 5 years. I think the man that was with him was Terry Sutherland. I believe I'm correct here. He stopped by after he was released. He was a hostage. He did stop by Roanoke briefly and made an appearance, but then he went on to a town south of here and to a college and made a speech. Let me say he went through hell. He had a chip put in him in his arm by Sir Terry. Sir Terry Waite is him. By Oliver North. By the way, Oliver North was the one in July of 87, that had the hearings where he shredded evidence, and his secretary, I believe, Fawn Hall, helped him shred. He later was a candidate for the presidency after I came to Roanoke, Virginia. I've forgotten what year that would have been, but he was the one that put the chip in him. Sir Terry Waite, and he was held captive for 5 years and so mistreated. Now, won't show Larry Flint this magazine because he helped me in a campaign. He was shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and I was doing a book on mind control. This is April issue of 84. He helped me in a U.S. congressional to replace Congressman Larry McDonald, who I had written about in a medical malpractice book, MD, A License to Kill, and it was about mind control, putting chips in heart bypasses, putting them in root canals. And by the way, I was listening to George Norrie's program last night, and he had a lady on there. She was telling about chipping and all that, only she didn't tell about they put it in other places in your body. Let me just cut to the chase here. I put so many up, and I get flaps when I try to tell what's happened to me and happening to me. Mind control murders, they're putting chips in people. They do it at a level, they teach them a Morse code. They do it at a level that they're not aware they're receiving it. What would they do if they did know? The shooter in Vegas, Mr. Paddock. Had he known, where would he go? Immediately they would have locked him up and called him nuts. They should have looked, rather than doing an autopsy on his brain to see if there was an abnormality, they should have looked for the chip in a root canal or heart bypass, or they should have looked for the chip in his body that enabled them to program him, and the motive is with the programming. Mind control was used on him, and I guarantee you he didn't okay it. He didn't even know it happened. So I'm going to just skip here and show you Jens Orens. He's British, he's German, and Elizabeth Haysom is Canadian. They're in prison for a crime they didn't commit. And by the way, Tim Kaine, when he ran for vice president he's a former governor, he's senator now. When he was governor, 4 days before he was to leave office, he said he was going to help Jens return to Germany to spend the rest of his time serving there, the sentence. Well, he made some nasty comments when they asked him about this, the press did, when he ran with Hillary Clinton. He ran for a VP, vice president. So he knows all about this. He made a statement. Well, I'm sure you can go back and get it. These are two young people who are totally innocent, and they were students at Charlottesville, the University of Virginia. Our paths crossed, Jens and mine, in Atlanta when I entered the campaign and was flown out to Mr. Flint's because Larry McDonald, the doctor I wrote about, one of them, the plane went down, the 007 KAL, August 31st of 83. And I'm going to turn around here and try to show this. Oh, there are people on death row. People have called me names and everything. There are people on death row who had chips implanted in them. They can mass program armies now. I wonder why people are so. It's a perfect weapon because nobody wants to hear about it. It's invisible. And anyway, I'm just going to. This is James Holmes. He's being treated for mental illness when that mental illness has nothing to do with mind control. Mind control is a weapon that's used, and your willpower, well, I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to go ahead and put this up the way it is. And I was talking about Sir Terry Waite, and Oliver North put a chip in his arm. This is way back then. I told when this was printed. I have to go back. I just told it, though, so... 1991, I believe, when he was finally released. So, there you go. You don't hear much about him anymore, do you? I guess I said what I was going to say. I'm going to turn this around, and I will say this, Mr. Paddock, they autopsied his brain. See, I think I'm being redundant here, but bear with me. They should have did an autopsy on the rest of his body. His root canal was probably where they put the chip. They've been doing this since before 63, back to the Tesla files. So last night on George Norrie, the lady was saying, well, what I've been saying, well, they come out, and one company did recently and asked, did its employees want to be chipped? It was just a little thing to put between their fingers, and they could easily swipe it across and get a Coke or etc. from their bank account. This has been going on for a long, long time. They didn't tell you. Why should they? I mean, this is their point. And then people go into denial that the United States is using this on their own people. When Terry, okay, what was his name? Wow. Okay, I've suddenly forgotten. The Oklahoma City, Brian Nichols and, okay. Suddenly I've forgotten. He was an Oklahoma City bomber. He told you that the military put a chip up his buttocks. He went on and he was charged with bombing Oklahoma City Federal Murray building. And Brian Nichols is still in prison there. They're blamed for a crime that somebody else committed. The motives are with the programmers. These people that I'm speaking of, and there's a long list of them, Sandy Hook, the Virginia Tech next door to me at Blacksburg, where the young man shot 32 and then was programmed to shoot himself. You can take a plane down with it, like the KAL. It was made with Larry McDonald, Congressman doctor, was made to fly into Russian airspace, and therefore the Soviet MiG shot it down, a Russian MiG. And Larry McDonald was supposed to, I had written about him in the book. He was one of the case's Dr. Congressman. He was supposed to be a passenger that went down. I wonder if they took the whole plane down, just to say that. I don't think he was on it. I've heard otherwise, that he wasn't. But anyway, President Nixon was in Juneau, Alaska before the plane left and went down in 83. And he was taken off, so they knew the plane was going down. And Geraldo Rivera got off the plane there. He was on that flight. So I was in the campaign. Larry Flint flew me out there because he had been shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and it was a programmed shooter. Now, I'm going to say this because Martin Luther King, the foundation's down there. I lived in Atlanta when I did this book. I went to the media. They all knew it. There's a whole long, hideous story to this if it's ever told what happened there. Believe me, Mrs. Martin Luther King knew that program shooter James Earl Ray shot him. So does Andrew Young, Reverend former UN ambassador, and UN is your new world order. The Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers, they went in and they set up, and now it's in total control now. To heck with any future, they've got it now. And I'm going to go because I've put up so much, and people don't even, they call you names without even thinking about what they're saying or caring. All you have to do, you can Google mind control use. Maybe it doesn't give you lists of people that it's been used on. But anyway, I want to say this again. Mental health has nothing to do, or mental illness, with mind control. Mind control is programming, and it's hideous. How many people, if it's invisible, like I said, the ones I told about were done in patterns and can be proven. So how many people have died, like Tim McVeigh, okay, the Oklahoma City bombing, that the military put a chip up his buttocks. And he told everybody he was put to death. How many more Timothy McVeighs that if you, the family member, found out this was done to your child, how would you feel? Would you call me names? And I'm going to go back to Mr. Paddock. Again, I'm going to reiterate in Las Vegas because this one can totally be proven. At the Mandalay Inn, the shootings, they autopsied his brain to see if there was an abnormality. They should have autopsied his teeth for the chip that's in root canals, and a lot of people, that's how they do it. Go for a root canal, nobody tells you to put a chip in you so they can remote control you and program you, and you do as they say. They make your decisions for you. So what if you, it takes the press that's controlled by the New World Order, the Rockefellers and Rothschilds. NBC even says they're broadcasting from Rockefeller Plaza. So your media all have been controlled for a long, long time. So anyway, chips have been put in babies for a long, long time. This didn't just come before the public because a company made it public. They were asking if their employees wanted to be chipped so they could swipe the candy machine. This goes much further. They mass program armies now. I was told when I was in Tampa, Florida, back in about 82, I worked at the Tampa Hilton as secretary. I was told by FBI, she was married to FBI, and she come in and took my place there, got the job. And she told me there was only one person that could be in control, in mind control, when it was all over, because you zap each other because you don't want the other to get you first. So